No one clapped, not a single hand. My daughter stood frozen under the harsh school lights, her lips still trembling from the last note. And then I heard it. A parent's whisper, sharp as glass. "That's the poor girl from the single mom." That was the moment I knew I had to take back control. "Hi, I'm Renee. Before I tell you what happened that night, I want to know, where are you watching from? Because whether you're sitting in your car, your kitchen, or lying awake at 2 a.m. replaying something that broke you, I need you to hear this. This isn't just a story about a talent show. It's about how shame can strangle you silent and how, sometimes, it takes a stranger to remind you to breathe again. It was a Friday evening, the kind of night that smells like crayons, popcorn, and floor wax. The school gym had been transformed into a makeshift auditorium with folding chairs lined up in uneven rows. Parents whispered, teachers adjusted microphones, and a handful of PTA moms buzzed around like bees in pearls. Maya clutched my hand so tightly that her tiny nails dug into my skin. "Mom," she whispered, "what if they don't like me?" "They will," I said, smoothing her hair back. "You've practiced so hard. Remember, the song is yours." She nodded, eyes wide and shining a mix of fear and hope that almost broke me. Maya wasn't like the other kids. She didn't have a sequined costume or a backing track, just a thrift store dress and a ukulele we bought secondhand. But she had heart, more heart than any kid I'd ever met. We'd spent weeks practicing after dinner, our voices echoing through our tiny apartment. Sometimes she'd stop mid-verse and ask, "Do you think Daddy would have liked it?" And I'd lie, gently, "Of course he would have, baby." The lights dimmed. The principal took the stage, beaming. "Welcome everyone to our annual Spring Talent Showcase." Applause erupted. I clapped too, though my palms were damp. Act after act filled the stage. Baton twirlers, magicians, little ballerinas spinning in perfect formation. Parents cheered loudly, some even standing to film on their phones. When the MC finally called, "Next up, Maya Lewis performing Rainbow Heart," I felt my chest tighten. Maya stepped forward, tiny and alone under the spotlight. She adjusted the microphone the way we practiced and gave a small, brave smile. Then she strummed the first chord. Her voice was soft at first, uncertain, but it grew pure and sweet, filling the space. The lyrics were simple, about finding color in gray days, about love that doesn't give up. I saw a few parents smile politely, but most just looked down at their phones. Then came the last verse, the one she wrote herself. "Even when no one's clapping, I'll still sing my song." When she finished, her final chord hung in the air, trembling, and then nothing, no applause, just the faint buzz of the lights. Maya blinked, looking out at the crowd. Her eyes searched for mine. That's when I heard it, the whisper. "That's the poor girl from the single mom." A few people chuckled quietly. Someone coughed. I felt heat flood my face, my hands gripping my knees so hard they hurt. My stomach twisted. I wanted to shout, to demand they clap for her, not because she was perfect, but because she was brave. But I didn't move. I just sat there, swallowing the lump in my throat. Maya gave a small, confused bow and turned to leave the stage. Her little shoulders slumped like wilted flowers. The MC cleared his throat awkwardly. Thank you, Maya. That was lovely." Still no applause. My chest felt like it was caving in. I started to rise to go to her, to hold her, when I noticed movement in the corner of my eye. Someone in the audience stood up. A woman, tall, graceful, with a red scarf draped over her shoulders. She walked down the aisle, calm, deliberate, her heels clicking against the gym floor. The chatter stopped. Every head turned. Maya froze halfway off stage, staring at the stranger approaching her. The woman climbed the stairs to the stage and whispered something I couldn't hear. Then she took the microphone. The entire auditorium went silent. The woman in the red scarf stood beneath the harsh gym lights, a calmness radiating from her that silenced even the rowdiest parents in the back row. For a moment, all you could hear was the faint hum of the amplifier and the distant creak of a folding chair. Then she spoke. "Do you know what bravery looks like?" she said, her voice steady, carrying through the room. "It looks like a little girl who stands on stage and sings her truth, even when the world forgets to listen." The microphone squeaked slightly as she adjusted it. Maya stared up at her, wide-eyed. The woman smiled down at my daughter, not pitying, but proud. "That," she continued, turning to the crowd, is courage, and I think courage deserves a little more than silence, don't you? For a moment no one moved. Then a single pair of hands began to clap, then another, and another. Within seconds, the entire room erupted into applause. Maya's face transformed from confusion to wonder, from shame to something like light. She blinked back tears, then smiled, shy and trembling, as the stranger knelt beside her and whispered something close to her ear. I didn't know what she said then. I only knew that whatever it was, it gave Maya the strength to lift her chin, clutch her ukulele again, and take one small bow. When she walked off stage, the woman handed her the microphone and gave her a gentle pat on the shoulder. The MC, visibly flustered, mumbled into the mic, "Let's give another big hand for Maya Lewis." This time the applause was real, loud, long. I could barely breathe. Backstage, the air smelled of sweat, fabric glue, and the sweet tang of orange soda. Maya ran straight into my arms. "Mom," she gasped. "She said I did good. She said it's okay that I was scared." I hugged her tight, trying to steady my voice. "You were amazing, baby. You were brave." When I looked up, the woman in the red scarf was standing near the exit, speaking to a teacher. She caught my gaze and smiled faintly, the kind of smile that sees too much and forgives it anyway. I walked over, still holding Maya's hand. "Excuse me," I said softly. I don't know how to thank you." She shook her head. No need. She didn't need saving. She just needed reminding that her voice matters. Her tone was warm, but there was a quiet gravity beneath it, like someone who's lived that lesson the hard way. I studied her face. She looked familiar somehow, but I couldn't place her. Maybe it was the confidence in her posture, or the way people seemed to part unconsciously as she moved. "I'm Leah," she said, extending her hand. "Leah Porter." I took it. Her grip was firm, grounding. "I'm Renee, and this is Maya." Maya peeked out from behind my leg. "Thank you for clapping first," she whispered. Leah smiled. "You earned it, sweetheart." As the crowd dispersed, I saw the same parents who had whispered earlier approach me, some offering awkward smiles, others pretending not to see us at all. It didn't matter anymore. For once, I didn't feel small. Leah lingered by the door, her red scarf glowing in the fluorescent light. "You've got a special kid," she said. "Keep her singing." Then she turned and walked away, slipping into the night before I could ask more who she was, why she cared, how she'd known to say exactly what my daughter needed to hear. That night, after I tucked Maya into bed, I searched her name on my phone, Leah Porter. The results made my breath catch. Award-winning singer, former student of the same school, founder of the Bright Voices Foundation, a music charity for underprivileged kids. I stared at the photo on the screen, the same woman, the same red scarf, standing on a stage much larger than ours. She'd once been that little girl too, and somehow she'd seen herself in Maya. The next morning, Maya came running into the kitchen, still glowing. "Mom, do you think Miss Leah will come again next year?" I smiled, pouring her cereal. "Maybe, but even if she doesn't, she gave us something better." "What?" "The reminder that we clap for ourselves first." She giggled. "Like this?" And she started to clap for her own reflection in the microwave door. Her laughter filled the room, and for the first time in a long while, it sounded like hope. By Monday morning, the video was everywhere. Someone had recorded the entire moment, Maya's trembling performance, the dead silence, and Leah Porter's unexpected intervention. It had been uploaded to the school's Facebook group, and by sunrise, it had spread to the wider community. Parents were sharing it with captions like, "So inspiring," and "What a brave little girl." At first, I thought it was a good thing. I thought maybe Maya would finally be seen for who she was, not the poor girl, but the child who sang through fear. But by lunchtime, the comments turned sour. People loved to praise, but they also loved to dissect. She shouldn't have been put in that position. Where was her father? Why is everyone acting like this is heroic? It's just sad. Sad. That word lodged itself in my chest like a splinter. When I picked Maya up that afternoon, she was quiet. Her backpack hung low, dragging one strap along the sidewalk. "How was school, baby?" She shrugged. "Okay." Her voice was soft, too soft. At home, she went straight to her room without turning on her music, the one thing she'd never failed to do. Later, I found her sitting on her bed, staring at her ukulele. "They said I only got claps because she felt sorry for me," she murmured, "that I didn't sing good enough to deserve it." I sat beside her. "Who said that?" She shrugged again, eyes shiny. "Just Kids, but I knew better. Those words don't come from children. They're borrowed echoes from their parents' dinner tables. The next morning, I went to see Mrs. Donovan, her teacher. I tried to be calm. "She's been quiet since Friday," I said. "I think she's being teased." Mrs. Donovan sighed, folding her hands. "Renee, I understand this must be difficult, but sometimes when a situation like this gets attention, it can be overwhelming for children." "A situation like this?" I repeated. She smiled tightly. "You know how sensitive children from certain situations can be? Perhaps it's best to focus on helping Maya adjust rather than reliving the event." "Certain situations?" I asked again, my voice dropping. Her eyes flicked to the cheap purse in my lap, then back up. "You're doing your best, I know that." Something in me wanted to scream, but instead I nodded and left, my dignity trailing behind me like a torn hem. Bills waited on the kitchen table that night. An electric notice, rent due in 5 days, a crumpled grocery receipt. My chest felt heavy, the kind of heaviness that doesn't lift even when you exhale. I heated soup and tried to hum the song Maya had written, but my voice cracked halfway through. The apartment felt smaller than usual. The hum of the fridge sounded like judgment. Later, I peeked into her room. She was sitting on the floor, tearing pages from her music notebook carefully, silently. "Hey," I whispered, kneeling beside her. "What are you doing?" She looked at me with tired eyes that didn't belong to a 10-year-old. "If I don't sing anymore, they'll stop saying things." I reached for the torn paper, but she shook her head. "Maya, look at me," I said gently. "You can't let them take your voice." Her lip trembled. "It's not fair." "I know," I said, pulling her into my arms. "It isn't, but you can't let them decide who you are." She pressed her face into my shoulder. I felt her small body shake with quiet sobs. That night, after she fell asleep, I picked up the torn pages and tried to tape them back together. The lyrics were written in purple marker, words uneven, but beautiful. "I'll sing where no one claps, 'cause music lives inside, even when hearts are quiet. Mine won't hide." I stared at that last line for a long time. Mine won't hide. It hit me that maybe this wasn't just her song. Maybe it was mine too. The next morning, I walked her to school, both of us quiet. As she disappeared through the double doors, I caught a glimpse of her teacher speaking with another mom, the same one who had whispered that awful comment at the show. They both looked at me briefly, then turned away. Something inside me twisted again, but not from shame this time, from anger, clean and sharp, the kind that wakes something sleeping in you. That night, when Maya went to bed, I opened my laptop and wrote an email, not to the school, to Leah Porter. I didn't expect her to ever read it, but I wrote anyway. "You reminded my daughter that her voice matters. I just hope the world lets her keep it." Then I hit send. I didn't know it then, but that email would change everything. I didn't expect a reply. Honestly, I forgot I'd even sent the email. Days went by and life fell back into its quiet rhythm work, bills, laundry, silence. Then, one Thursday evening, I came home to find a cream-colored envelope sitting in our mailbox. No stamp, just my name, written in elegant handwriting across the front, Renee Lewis. For a second, I thought it might be another notice, another reminder of something overdue. But when I turned it over, I saw a wax seal pressed in the shape of a treble clef. My heart started to beat faster. Inside was a short, handwritten letter. "Dear Renee, your daughter's song stayed with me. Not just the melody, but the courage behind it. I started the Bright Voices Foundation because I once stood on a stage where no one clapped too. If Maya still loves to sing, I'd like to offer her an audition for our scholarship program. It covers lessons, instruments, and mentorship. No strings attached. Tell her the world needs more voices like hers. Warmly, Leah Porter." For a long moment, I just stood there at the kitchen counter staring at the letter. No strings attached. It sounded too good to be true. My heart wanted to believe it, but my head reminded me that life doesn't hand out miracles that easily. Not to people like us. Maya was at the table, coloring quietly. "Mom?" she asked. "What's that?" I hesitated, then handed it to her. Her eyes widened as she read. "She remembered me," she whispered, voice trembling. "Mom, she remembered me." Her joy was contagious, but I still felt a pang of worry deep down, a mother's instinct to look for the hidden cost. "It's an audition, honey. That means you'd have to sing again." "I know," she said softly. "Can I?" The question was so small, so fragile, that it nearly broke me. "Of course you can," I said, pulling her into a hug. "Of course. The following week, we took the bus downtown to the Bright Voices studio. It wasn't what I expected. I imagined something glamorous, glass walls, gold plaques. Instead, it was a small, sunlit building tucked between a bakery and a secondhand bookstore. Inside, the air smelled like old wood and possibility. A young woman with curly hair greeted us. "You must be Maya," she said warmly. "We've been expecting you." Maya squeezed my hand as we followed her into a small rehearsal room. A piano sat against one wall, a circle of folding chairs arranged in the center. There were a few other children there, some tapping nervous rhythms, others humming quietly. When Maya's name was called, she stepped up, clutching her ukulele like a shield. She looked back at me. I nodded. Then she began, the same song, Rainbow Heart. But this time her voice didn't tremble. It rose, soft but sure, wrapping the room in warmth. By the time she reached the last line, "Even when no one's clapping, I'll still sing my song," I realized my hands were already wet with tears. The woman at the piano smiled, nodding slowly. "Beautiful, Maya. Truly beautiful." Maya turned to me, eyes wide. "Did I do okay?" I smiled through tears. "You did more than okay, sweetheart. You did everything." A week later, another letter arrived. "Congratulations, Maya. You've been accepted into the Bright Voices Junior program. Your lessons start next month." Maya screamed so loud our downstairs neighbor knocked on the ceiling. We danced in the living room, me, her, and our old squeaky floor. For the first time in months, I saw her shine again. That fearless spark that had dimmed after the show now blazed like it had never left. But as I tucked her into bed that night, I noticed something at the bottom of the letter, a faint handwritten note, added after the printed text. "P.S. Please don't mention this publicly. I prefer to stay behind the scenes." It was signed again, LP. Leah didn't want recognition. She didn't need applause. She'd done for my daughter what the world had failed to do quietly, selflessly, like a whisper of kindness cutting through years of noise. That night, I sat by the window long after Maya fell asleep, rereading the letter under the streetlight. For the first time in a long time, I felt something stir inside me. A quiet hope, yes, but also a fierce promise. If life had chosen to give us this small miracle, I wasn't going to let fear ruin it. Maybe we couldn't control what people said. Maybe we couldn't rewrite the past. But from that moment on, I swore I would never let silence win again. It's strange how joy can make people uncomfortable. When I told Maya's school about her scholarship, I expected smiles, maybe congratulations. Instead, I got polite surprise, the kind that feels like a compliment wrapped in disbelief. "Oh," said Mrs. Donovan, blinking rapidly. "That's quite something. How did she manage that?" "She auditioned," I replied simply. "Leah Porter invited her." Her brows lifted, then quickly smoothed into a practiced expression of neutrality. "Well, that's certainly unexpected." Unexpected. That word sat heavy in my gut. Unexpected for what? For a child like Maya? For a mother like me? I thanked her anyway, and left before the tightness in my chest could turn into tears. But it didn't end there. A few days later, I received a call from the principal's office. "Mrs. Lewis," he began, "I just wanted to check in about Maya's schedule. We understand she'll be taking these extracurricular lessons?" "Yes," I said cautiously, "every Wednesday and Saturday." He cleared his throat. "I only ask because it's important not to overextend children from—" I cut in, voice sharp. "From what?" Silence crackled on the line. He chuckled lightly, pretending not to hear the edge in my tone. "From challenging circumstances. You understand, don't you? We just want her to feel supported." The word supported sounded like a polite replacement for controlled. "She is supported," I said flatly, "by me, and by people who believe in her." When I hung up, my hands were shaking not from fear this time, but from something electric, something long overdue. For years, I'd let the whispers, the sideways glances, the patronizing sympathy dictate how small I allowed myself to be. But watching Maya rise again had changed something in me. That week, the school sent home a permission slip asking if Maya would perform at the district showcase. The event was mandatory for her class, but it fell on the same day as her first mentorship session at Bright Voices. I circled no and signed my name with a firm hand. The next morning, Mrs. Donovan pulled me aside. "Renee, if Maya skips the showcase, it might affect her participation grade." "I'm aware," I said. She blinked, clearly not expecting resistance. "But it's a valuable opportunity for her. She already has one," I said quietly. "And it's not here." By the end of the week, the whispers started again. I overheard them at drop-off. The way people do when they want to be overheard. Some people just think they're better now. Maybe she should focus on math, not music. I ignored them mostly, but it stung, the way judgment always does, even when you know better. Then came the email from Principal Harris. Subject: concerns regarding Maya's commitments. Dear Mrs. Lewis, while we commend Maya's recent success, we believe balance is crucial. It may be beneficial for her to remain within familiar environments rather than pursue demanding external programs. Children thrive with stability and structure. Best, David Harris. I read it twice, my pulse pounding in my ears. For a long time, I'd accepted that my voice didn't matter, not in parent meetings, not in emails, not in rooms where people already decided who I was. But this time, I felt something shift. I opened a blank reply and began to type. Dear Mr. Harris, thank you for your concern. Stability and structure are important, yes, but so is self-belief. Maya's environment will no longer be defined by limitation. It will be defined by opportunity. You may not have heard it, but the night no one clapped for her, she kept singing anyway. That's the kind of structure I want her to have. Respectfully, Renee Lewis. I hit send before I could lose my nerve. 2 days later, I was called in for a meeting. I almost didn't go. Part of me wanted to stay silent to avoid the conflict. But when I saw Maya's ukulele leaning by the door, something inside me hardened again. In the principal's office, sunlight poured through the blinds, striping the carpet in gold. Mr. Harris sat behind his desk, hands folded, his tone smooth. Mrs. Lewis, we appreciate your passion for Maya's future. We just want what's best for her. I met his gaze evenly. Then let her chase it. You don't have to understand it. Just stop standing in the way of it. The room fell silent. I could feel my heartbeat in my ears. He cleared his throat. Of course. If that's your decision, it is, I said. I stood, gathered my bag and turned to leave. When I opened the door, Maya was sitting outside, waiting. She looked up at me, eyes full of questions. Everything okay, Mom? I smiled. Not the small, nervous smile I used to give people, but a real one. Better than okay. Let's go. As we walked out into the sunlight, I felt it, that rare, fleeting sense of power that comes when you finally stop apologizing for existing. For the first time, I wasn't walking away in shame. I was walking away in strength. Spring came early that year, or maybe it just felt that way. The world seemed lighter, softer. Even our tiny apartment looked brighter, like the sunlight had finally decided to stay a while. Every Wednesday and Saturday, Maya and I took the bus to the Bright Voices studio. The first few weeks, she was quiet, shy. She'd hover near the door, clutching her ukulele like a lifeline. But soon, something shifted. She began humming on the ride there, her foot tapping to rhythms only she could hear. She started coming home with stories, how she learned a new chord, how another student had shared their lyrics, how they all clapped for each other after every song. One evening, as we walked home, she said softly, Mom, they don't make fun of me there. Nobody cares where my shoes are from. My throat tightened. That's because they care where your music comes from, I said. She smiled, and for the first time in months, I saw that same fearless spark that had once filled our kitchen. By late May, the Academy announced its spring recital. Every student would perform one song. When Maya brought home the flyer, she was practically glowing. It's my turn again, Mom. But this time, I'm not scared. I nodded, though part of me still trembled inside. Not for her, but for me. I realized how much of my fear had never been about Maya failing, but about me being seen failing beside her. The whispers, the pity, the sideways glances, they had built a cage I'd been too afraid to name. This recital, I decided, wasn't just hers, it was ours. The evening of the performance, the air buzzed with soft excitement. The stage wasn't grand, just a small wooden platform in a community theater, with fairy lights strung overhead and rows of mismatched chairs, but it felt sacred. As the parents took their seats, I found myself scanning the crowd. That's when I saw her, Leah Porter, sitting quietly near the back, red scarf draped around her shoulders. No entourage, no cameras, just her, calm and steady, like the night she first stood for my daughter. When our eyes met, she smiled and gave a small nod. No words. None were needed. Maya was third on the program. She stepped onto the stage, her ukulele gleaming softly under the lights. I held my breath. Then, she began, But it wasn't Rainbow Heart. It was a new song, one I hadn't heard before. When the world goes quiet, I'll hum until it hears. I'll paint my sky with color. I'll sing away my fears. Her voice had changed fuller, stronger. It wasn't the timid sound of a little girl trying to be brave. It was the voice of someone who knew she belonged there. Halfway through, I noticed something glinting at her wrist, a bracelet woven from bright threads. One of her classmates must have made it. When the song ended, there was a pause, a heartbeat of silence, and then the room exploded with applause. People stood. Some even whistled. Maya laughed, a clear ringing sound that filled every corner of that little theater. And I cried, not quiet tears this time, but the kind that spill freely, the kind you don't hide. After the show, parents congratulated her, shaking her hand like she was someone important. Maya beamed, cheeks flushed pink. When I turned, Leah was there. Closer now. "She's remarkable," Leah said softly. "You know that, right?" I nodded, wiping at my cheeks. "I do now." Leah smiled faintly. "I didn't save her that night, Renee. You did. You stayed. You kept her singing." For a second, I couldn't speak. "I think you reminded me how," I finally said. She touched my arm gently. "That's all any of us can do, remind each other." We stood there in the hum of post-performance chatter, surrounded by laughter and applause. The same sounds that once wounded us now felt like healing. Before she left, Leah slipped something into my hand, a small silver pendant shaped like a music note. "For her," she said, "to remind her that silence is just the space before the next song." I watched her go, her red scarf swaying like a ribbon in the warm night air. That night, as Maya slept beside her ukulele, I hung the pendant by her bedside lamp. Then I sat by the window, listening to the faint sounds of the city cars, footsteps, a distant saxophone from someone's balcony, and I realized something simple but profound. It wasn't applause that defined us. It was persistence. It was love whispered in the dark. For years, I'd believed we were the ones on the outside looking in, but now I knew we were standing in the light all along. The world had just taken its time to notice. They say time softens pain, but I don't think that's true. It doesn't soften. It teaches you how to carry it differently. It's been almost a year since that night at the talent show, the night the clapping never came, the night I heard someone whisper words meant to shrink my child. I still remember every second of it, but I also remember what came after, the stranger standing, the silence breaking, the song beginning again. That was the night I started to rebuild not just Maya's courage, but my own. Life didn't suddenly become easy after that recital. Bills still came, buses still ran late, and there were still days I'd come home too tired to cook anything more than noodles and toast. But everything felt different, because now, when Maya played, she wasn't trying to prove herself, she was simply being. And for me, that was enough. Sometimes we think redemption arrives like lightning, one big and dramatic moment that fixes everything, but it doesn't. It comes quietly. In the mornings, when your child hums in the kitchen. In the emails you no longer feel the need to answer. In the way your voice doesn't shake when you say, "She deserves this." Those are the small victories that no one claps for, but they're the ones that matter most. A few months after the Bright Voices recital, Maya's school held another event this time, a community celebration for all the students who had represented the school in external programs. Maya was invited to perform. When the invitation came, she looked at me uncertainly. "Should I go, Mom?" I smiled. "Only if you want to." She thought for a moment. "I think I do." The night of the event, we walked through those same auditorium doors, the ones that used to feel too heavy for me to push open. The room looked smaller somehow, or maybe it was me who had grown. Parents smiled as we entered, not the strained, pitying smiles from before, but genuine ones. A few even waved. Maya went backstage, and I found a seat near the middle, the same section I'd sat in that night, clutching my hands together, praying someone would just clap. But this time, I wasn't praying for her to be accepted. I was simply grateful she'd learned to shine, no matter who was watching. When her name was called, she walked onto the stage, her small shoulders squared, her ukulele in hand. She strummed once a clear, confident note that echoed through the hall. Then, before singing, she said softly into the mic, "This song is for my mom. She taught me that silence isn't the end of a story. It's just the space where you decide what comes next." There was a murmur from the crowd, a shift, like a wave of quiet recognition. And then she began to sing, the same voice, but somehow different, steadier, freer. I could feel my heart swell with every line. When the song ended, something beautiful happened. The audience stood. This time the applause was thunderous, not polite, not hesitant, but real. And I cried again. But not out of sadness, out of something deeper. It wasn't just pride, it was release. Afterward, a few parents came up to me. "She's incredible," one said. "You must be so proud." "I am," I replied, and for once I didn't feel the need to explain why. As we left that night, Maya reached for my hand. "Mom," she said, "do you think people change?" I thought about that, about all the faces that had once turned away and were now smiling, about the teachers who now spoke her name with respect, about the way I stood taller now, even when no one was watching. "Yes," I said quietly, "they do. Sometimes slowly, sometimes all at once, but they do." She squeezed my hand and we stepped out into the night. The same night sky that had once felt so far above us now seemed to open wide, waiting. So if you're watching this, maybe from your kitchen table or your living room couch or your car in the quiet moments between work and home, I want you to hear me when I say this. Don't let the silence define you. There will be nights when no one claps, when the world turns its head, when whispers sting more than shouts ever could. And in those moments it will be easy to believe you are small or unseen or less. But you are not. You are still the music. You are still the light. You are still here. And sometimes, the greatest applause you'll ever receive is the one that comes from within the whisper that says, "I kept going." That night at the talent show broke something in me, but it also woke something far greater. And that's when I finally understood what I had to do.